All right, so let's talk about complex PTSD, also known as C-PTSD. The main difference between it and PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is that C-PTSD develops over a long period of time. Think of it like this. With PTSD, you go to war or you get hit by a car or you get sexually abused once. With complex PTSD, it's more the effect of long-term, ongoing, subtler trauma like emotional neglect. It's usually born in the relationship with primary caregivers, and it really affects a person's core identity, right, or lack thereof. For example, if you carry a lot of shame or if you have deficiency stories like I'm not enough or I'm unwanted, that is CPTSD. And in my estimation, most people have this to varying degrees, but you have to get really honest with yourself about it because most people spend a lot of their time trying to prove that they don't have it, which doesn't all that sound wildly similar to what it's like to be in emotional repression. Shame, check. Deficiency stories, check. Identity issues, check. And both CPTSD and emotional repression are ultimately an addiction to the suffering state. Well, that's because they're the same thing, with one major difference. Emotional repression is calling the suffering state what it is, while CPTSD, not so much. It's more of a label that was created by people who sound like they didn't know the science or the mechanics of emotional repression. And it's also something that could easily become another identity that could reinforce your suffering state, right? Like, oh, now I have CPTSD, just something else that's wrong with me, right? More shame. Versus, oh, I have buried and repressed emotions that are resolvable. Okay, that's not so bad. This is why I sometimes take issue with diagnoses and mental health identities, right? Because if the people doing the diagnosing aren't talking to you about emotional repression and how it shows up and manifests in your life, there's a danger that they may be reinforcing and solidifying your suffering because they're reinforcing and solidifying your beliefs about yourself, which, as I always say, is what emotional repression creates, drives, and sustains. So here's what I'd say. If you think you have CPTSD, great. Come do some emotional repression work first, and then see if you still have CPTSD. And you may, but I'll just tell you that the people that I've worked with that have done this, they start to see their CPTSD symptoms dissolve as their emotional repression resolves. Same with depression, same with OCD, same with ADD. I could probably keep naming acronyms for a while. The point is, rule out that your diagnosis isn't emotional repression first. Because wouldn't you want to know if it was? I mean, I worked with a guy the other day who thought he was an addict for over 20 years and went through that whole rigmarole of addiction recovery, and it turns out that he was just repressing his childhood hurt. And lo and behold, as he started to resolve his emotional repression, no addict identity, no addiction, no recovery. And with CPTSD, it's the same deal. I certainly would have qualified for that personally, and I don't anymore. So if you'd like to start ruling things out and start doing some emotional repression work, then tap the link in the caption or the bio.